Hello and welcome to a microbit tutorial. In this video we are going to learn how to use the microbit, the expansion kit, wires, resistors, and LEDs to program and control lights using the microbit. For this activity you will need a BBC microbit, a USB cable, a microbit edge connector, a breadboard, 47 ohm resistors, and you can tell these are 47 ohm because their bands are gold, black, purple, and yellow. LED lights, I have 3 of them here, and some different wires. You will need male-to-male wires. These ones have the pins on both ends. If you need to use one, you simply peel it off. And you also need a few male to female wires. Notice that they have no pin on one end and then a pin on the other end. Perfect. So what we are going to do is try to use the microbit to build a circuit. Now let's explore a little bit what some of these components do, and then we will start to build our own circuit. So let's talk about the edge connector first. I'm going to move some of these components out of the way. And I will zoom in. Okay. And so the edge connector, you'll notice the microbit has pins 0, 1, 2, 3 volts, and ground. And these are great. Just like a battery, we can connect components to 3 volts and ground and run electricity through our components. But it's kind of difficult to take a wire and connect a wire to these pads. And so what the edge connector allows you to do is when you insert the microbit, it now takes all of those pins and makes them something you can plug into. So now, if I wanted to attach something to, let's say, 3 volts, I would find the pin that says 3 volts. I can actually plug a wire directly in to 3 volts. And now I can take this other end of the wire and plug it in where I need. Now, the other great thing about this setup, so this gives you access to 3 volts, 0 volts, and then all of the pins, is I can then easily connect, let's say I'll connect this 3 volts to my breadboard. So you might be asking, what is a breadboard? Well, a breadboard is an easy way to connect electrical components. And I'll show you how one works right here. Okay, so here is my award-winning drawing of a breadboard, but you can see the breadboard over here. It has the minus and plus sections at the top. Then it has this section of holes in the middle, another section of holes, and then another minus and plus section at the bottom. And what the breadboard lets you do is plug wires in and plug lights in. It makes it really easy to connect different components. But you do have to know how all of the holes on the breadboard are interconnected. And so it's interesting. This top row here that says minus, it's blue, is all connected. So for instance, if I connect something to this pin right here, like a wire, all of these other pins are connected to the same wire. So for instance, over here, if I take this brown wire, plug it in to that minus row, and then I took this red wire and I plugged it into a different hole on the minus row, these two wires are now connected. Electricity will flow from here through the minus row to this wire. Okay? Now the same thing is true about the plus row. If I plug in one thing here, this entire row is connected. So that's great. What I like to do is with my breadboard, I will take my 3 volts and I'll plug it in to the positive row. And then I'll take another wire. Actually, I want to switch colors here. I don't like using brown to represent 3 volts. I'll use a red wire to connect 3 volts to the positive row. And then I'll use a black wire to connect 0 volts to the negative row. So that way, this minus and plus match up to what I have here. These holes in the middle act a little differently. And so the way these holes work is they're connected in vertical columns. So for instance, this column here, if I plug something in there, everything in this column is now connected. Whereas the column right next to it, if I connect something there, this whole column is connected. And so each column is only connected to the other 5 pins in that column. And this is where I like to put my LEDs and resistors and such. So that's how a breadboard works. And here is the circuit I want to build. So actually, before I build it on my breadboard, I'll lay it out for you here so you can see what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I have my microbit. Right, there's the ground, or the minus side of the microbit. There's the 3 volts side of the microbit. I'm going to want to run a wire from the positive side of the microbit to an LED. So let's use this yellow LED. I want the long leg of the LED. Oops, it's rolling around, sorry. The long leg of the LED will connect to the red wire. I then want to put a resistor in here that will keep my LED from burning out, connected to the short leg. And then I'll complete my circuit by going back from the resistor to 0 volts or ground on the microbit. So this is the circuit I'm going to build over here. And so what I'll do is I'll take my microbit, I'll attach it to the edge connector. I'll take my negative wire, I'll attach to 0 volts and the minus portion of the breadboard. I'll take my red wire and connect it to 3 volts in the positive side of the breadboard. I'm going to take my LED. Let me get a better view here. So again, you can see 0 volts to minus, 3 volts to plus. I'm going to take my LED and plug it in to a couple of these holes. So the long leg is on the left, The short leg is on the right. So plugged it in like so. The long leg needs positive voltage. So I'll use a red wire to connect positive to the long leg. And then the short leg, remember based on this drawing, needs a resistor, and then it will go to negative volts. So from the short leg here, I'm going to take my resistor and bend it, and go from the minus side to the short leg of the LED. Sometimes it's a little tough to connect. There we go. So to recap, 3 volts, electricity flows through this wire to the red rail, through the red rail, through this red wire, from this red wire through the positive leg of the LED, through the short leg of the LED to the resistor, and through the resistor back to the blue rail, and then from the blue rail through this wire to 0 volts. Well, let's see how it works. When I plug this in, we should see the LED turn on. Perfect. Now I could repeat this same process and wire another light over here with another resistor to the plus and minus rows, and it would also turn on. So you can wire a bunch of LEDs using this technique. Now, what if I want to control this LED so it turns on and off? Well, to do that is fairly simple. What I will do is, rather than supplying power from 3 volts, I'm going to remove this wire, I'm going to supply power from one of these pins. And in this case, I have pre-programmed pin 0 to turn on and off. So what I'll do is I will connect a wire to the long leg of the LED and to pin 0 on my expansion board. So here you can see this orange wire is connected to pin 0, and the orange wire comes up and connects to the long leg of the LED. And then again, the short leg of the LED is still connected through this resistor to the blue rail, and then the blue rail is connected to 0 volts through the black wire. Now, yours might not do this because you haven't written the code turning pin 0 on and off. So in the rest of this tutorial, you will learn how to program pin 0 to turn this light on and off. And what's great is we have all of these other pins in this entire breadboard to wire other LEDs and control them however we want. Well, that is the end of this tutorial video. Hopefully you learned how to use a breadboard, how to connect LEDs to the breadboard, and how to use the edge connector to connect the microbit to all these components. Thanks for watching.